everybody. We are back for another edition of Ask Away Wednesday, where Chris and I are here to answer your top questions around data governance and data security and how they pertain to ALTR. Today's question comes from folks that I think are a trend that we're starting to really see, Chris, around tokenization and protecting data in the cloud. A lot of the questions immediately pop up. How does something like ALTR's tokenization affect my query performance or my result set performance, or how slow is this stuff really, and am I screwed if I use it? So what's your response when folks ask about the performance of ALTR's tokenization?
Well, James, as you know, I'm a big fan of answering direct questions with direct answers, and the answer is yes.
Only way to do it. Yep.
The answer is yes. There will be an impact of using tokenization, but I will tell you that as you kind of utilize the product more and more, that impact becomes de minimis. And the reason why I would say that is because we have a tokenization architecture that is built for analytical workloads, which is not something that I think there's anywhere else in industry. I've said this before on this series that one of the interesting properties of the analytical workloads is that they're very bursty. The transactional workloads are very predictable. You know that at 8 o'clock in the morning, everybody's waking up and checking their bank account, and at 10 o'clock at night, everybody's asleep or watching TV. And so you can predict that workload, and it's pretty consistent. From an analytical workload perspective, at 2 o'clock in the morning, you'll have an ETL job fire, so you'll have a bunch of activity. And then the data warehouse will go back to sleep. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, you'll have a Tableau report fire, and there'll be a bunch of activity. And then it's kind of scattered throughout the day as people do their job. It's really kind of very bursty. And what the market needed was a tokenization technology and a tokenization architecture that accounted for that. And so we have a tokenization architecture that scales up to, in this case, we'll just say Snowflake, into Snowflake scale, and it scales up with Snowflake. And what that creates is a opportunity to get tokenization times in sub milliseconds on a per tokenization level, a per token level. I know that putting hard benchmarks in videos like this don't age well, and it puts a shelf life on the video, but we have a customer that's achieving 0.6 of a millisecond for a single token in a Snowflake warehouse on an extra small warehouse. And so, it's very elastic, the tokenization technology. Some of the other things we're seeing are the Snowpark use cases with Python. They pull out a lot of data at one time. They roll them through the data frames, they do their transformations, they do their actions on the data. And you have to have a really robust way to be able to move that data out of our token vault and into Snowflake so that data scientists' workload can complete successfy. And again, it gets back to that ability to scale. The last thing I'll say, without that ability to scale, you're either left with a SaaS hosted solution that is kind of handcuffed at a fixed size capacity. Some of our competitors have that, or even worse, what we see is some of the on-prem solutions that you really can't scale because it's metal boxes basically sitting in your closet, and you're not going to go out and buy more boxes because your ETL job needs to run or something like that. And so you just get a maximum amount of capacity, and it does not matter how many Tableau reports the business needs to run, or you need to do quarterly filings or anything like that. You're only getting as many detokenizations as what that metal is going to give you.
Or what the network allows for, even too, between like a Snowflake and your data center.
Yep, the metal between in the rack, across the internet, any of those things. And so this technology really eliminates a lot of those problems. So will there be impact? Yes, but there's no other solution in the market today that allows scaling with Snowflake. So that impact is really de minimis. That's kind of my response. I'd be curious about your thoughts, James.
I think when people think about tokenization, especially in the analytical workloads, I think sometimes they forget that 90% of the queries don't actually need the plain text value back. They just need to understand the relationship between other fields within the records. And so when we look at a traditional tokenization use case inside of a database like Snowflake, the majority of your queries can execute over those tokenized values. So we're really only talking about performance implications when either you're running large data science use cases in production, or for some reason you're trying to select 10 million social security numbers or something like that. It really only comes in when you need to translate those obfuscated tokens for those plain text values. And those use cases are rather limited, and I would say need to be well defined, because that's where the risk comes into play there. So folks need to remember that there is not always a need to detokenize values, but you do have the need to maintain the relationship with that data. The other thing I would add too is databases like Snowflake have contemplated this. When you look at the external function capabilities of Snowflake and the external tokenization capabilities, things like immutability are a great property that Snowflake offers. If you're asking for the same detokenization values 2 times in a row, and the tokens are deterministic, in which case a lot of cases they are with ALTR, we're going to give you the same answer back. So why would Snowflake ask us the same question twice when it knows the answer is going to be the same? Very similar to the way that their warehouses have query times, as you scale up in size, they will increase the amount of parallel requests. To Chris's point about this bursty nature of this. So if you do have a query that needs to complete faster with tokenization, you have levers and knobs and dials that you can turn, both from the Snowflake side and the ALTR side. So I think as this phenomena is growing, and certainly 2023 has seen major growth in tokenization, I think folks are kind of beginning to use this. If you have questions about it, please reach out. And if you want to try it for yourself, you're more than welcome to do that. So thank you all very much. Hope that gives some good insight, and we'll see you next week.